guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Ron McKeefery, and today is episode number 37. Today is actually the last episode of 2013. I want to take a moment and truly let you know how much I appreciate you watching the show and supporting what we're trying to do. Really means a lot to me personally, and I know that what we're doing as a community is giving back to a profession that we all love. So truly appreciate that. Also want to make sure that I wish everyone the very best Christmas. Today is the day after Christmas, but I hope that you had a chance to spend the day with your families, embrace the meaning of Christmas, and embrace the opportunity to show your loved ones how much you care about them and spend just that so precious time. In the spirit of Christmas, we have a fantastic guest with us today, John Feinman. He's the executive director and the founder of InnerCity Weightlifting. It's a non-for-profit based in Boston. And what he does is he works with urban youth to promote professional, personal, and academic achievement using weightlifting. And it's such a great thing. I watched a piece that ESPN did on John and InnerCity Weightlifting and was extremely moved by what is at the core what we're all about. We all talk about how we're really in it to make an impact on young people's lives, and here's a guy that's doing it. Was a soccer player at a small school, and started getting out into the business world and found a gap where he could reach inner city kids, gang members, using weightlifting as a tool and turn around and making an impact on their lives to the point to where some of them are now even working to be personal trainers and training CEOs of major corporations. And so it's at its core what we're all about, and it's working, and it's having a phenomenal impact in the community and in these athletes' lives. And we all applaud them for that. And it was very inspirational to me. It was encouraging because that's what I believe that 99.9% of the people that are listening to this are all about. As usual, I want to make sure we take a moment and recognize Play Sports Performance Flooring. This being the last episode of 2013, Play's been with me from the beginning and has been a supporter of this. And I can't thank them enough for making this show free for everyone. For what they've done with me personally in the projects that I've had. But I would encourage you, if you are in the market for flooring of any kind, reach out to Play, go to the NSCA show, stop by the booth, say hi to Rich and Brett and the gang there, and just introduce yourself, and explain what your project is. And I'll tell you right now, they'll tell you exactly whether or not they can help you or they can't. But them being a supporter of this show is proof positive that they're not just in it to be a performance sports flooring company. They're in it to help continue to support coaches and make this profession better for us as well. And so I truly appreciate their support. And if you could, go to their Facebook page, stop by their booth, and just reciprocate their commitment to us in any way possible. I truly appreciate that. If you are commuting right now, there's a couple ways that you can listen to this show. If it's easier for you to listen to it on iTunes, go to iTunes and download the episodes. Just click subscribe and it'll download automatically. Download any of the episodes that you might have missed, and then if you would leave a rating and review while you're there. Here's several reviews as it is. Ricky, go-to resource. Kyle loves what he's listening to. Andrew, there's some phenomenal coaches on here already, and it's humbling to me that this show is making an impact on everybody, and I love hearing the comments. You can also get this on iTunes, YouTube. By subscribing to the channel there, and with both these platforms, if you could leave a rating and review, that just helps me continue to spread the message. But I don't want to take any more time. I want you to sit back. I want you to listen to John and get in the little Christmas spirit here, because this is exactly what it's all about. And I appreciate him coming on the show. So sit back and enjoy. All right, guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. I am here with John Feinman, and I am super excited to have him on the show today. Backstory, and I gave you some on the intro, but John, is the founder, the executive director of InnerCity Weightlifting up in Boston, Mass. And, I'll let him share his story, but, long story short, myself and three of the other strength coaches at the Cincinnati Bengals were sitting around, and, John had a story come out about the organization on ESPN, and we're watching this story. And you want to talk about four tough guys all of a sudden getting tears in their eyes and about, and acting like a bunch of softies. He did it for us, man. And so what he's doing is phenomenal. And I'll allow him to share it. But, John, I appreciate you being on the show, man.
I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for your support.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Hey, John, I kind of always start off the show by, your journey into strength and conditioning. I know that kind of will take us into InnerCity weightlifting. But, where'd that passion, where'd that energy, where'd that drive to kind of get in the weight room come from for you?
Growing up, I played soccer my whole life. I had a partial scholarship to go play at Bryant University, Bryant College back then, and I checked in freshman year, 5'2", 118 pounds, so clearly was an undersized athlete. I'd already been taking strength and conditioning seriously. I mean, I was certainly undersized in high school as well.
Sure.
I got to college, and all of a sudden, 3 games into the season, I was starting, playing well, but every time I went for a head ball, I'd end up 10 feet backwards on my back. So took weight training even more seriously at that point. And towards the end of my college career, I started reading some materials about Olympic lifting. And I also wasn't the most mobile athlete, but ended up getting really into Olympic lifting. This is the precision behind it and the biomechanics, and even the smallest millimeter really makes a difference in that lift in terms of whether it's an efficient movement, you get that weight over your head or up to your shoulders, or if you're going to miss the weight. And not only did it help me in terms of just speed and power, but especially being a less mobile athlete, developed this level of mobility that I never had before, and all of a sudden I was able to do things I wasn't able to do. Still somewhat undersized at 5'7" and 140 pounds, but a little bit better than before.
Sure, absolutely. So now you're an athlete, and you kind of go on, and that stays as a passion for you. And I know that you kind of got out, and you were working in just working a job, and then you found you transitioned into InnerCity weightlifting. Tell us about InnerCity weightlifting and how that all came about.
Yeah. So in short, InnerCity Weightlifting is a nonprofit organization, and we actively target young people who are at the highest risk for violence. So young people who are actively involved in the streets, and we leverage weight training to get them off the streets and into the gym to create a positive community and positive relationships that can ultimately help our students gain hope and new opportunities that they might not have otherwise had before. And the idea really came from my first year out of undergrad. I wasn't ready to give up sports, so I did a year of AmeriCorps in a program called Athletes in Service to America. And that brought me from Providence to Boston, and I was at a K-8 school where my role is just to get young people involved in after-school sport-based activity. And the AmeriCorps training, it talked about how we're working with kids who are coming in from domestic issues and gang violence, all this and that. And I get there, and I'm like, these are just good kids.
Right.
And my primary role is to get them involved in after-school sport-based activity, and to the credit of all the great organizations out there, it was just too easy. And they were going to go to these organizations regardless of whether or not I was there. So I gravitated towards one young person in particular, Alexin. He was 12 at the time, getting initiated into a gang called MS-13. And the more I got to know him and his friends, these were the heavy hitters. These were the guys who had machetes in their hands, guns, driving a disproportionate percentage of violence in this area of East Boston. And what allowed me to get in with them was a soccer ball rolled my way one day. Well, they're all playing. I did a couple tricks, like kick it back, and they kind of look at me out of the corner. They're like, this little white guy can play some soccer. So I started playing soccer and ended up developing this relationship with them. And at the same time, during that year of AmeriCorps, really just to be able to afford rent and food. I was also a part-time personal trainer, certified through NASM, and then later through got my CSCS. It just so happened that weight training was this common interest that could, if nothing else, get Alexa and some of his friends off the streets and into the gym. And it quickly became apparent that it was going to be less about weight training, more about that community and that bond that was forming. So the end of the year of AmeriCorps, that piece of it kind of crumbled to pieces without the logistical support of AmeriCorps. I became a full-time personal trainer. That's when I got my CSCS. I went from an AmeriCorps stipend to making $120,000 a year doing that. So it was a nice change in pace financially for me.
Sure.
And ultimately, in 2008, I loved personal training. But I had 56 sessions in my book every single week. Not everyone would show up, but it was kind of, I just hit a ceiling in terms of, what's next? Do I want to open up my own gym? Do I want to increase rates? And I never forgot about Lexington. So I applied to Babson's one-year MBA program to get my MBA, and I actually wrote about Lexington and this idea I had for InnerCity Weightlifting. So went to Babson from 2009 to 2010. Fall of 2009, I'm walking back in that same area, East Boston, I hear his voice behind me. Go, yo, John, what's up? I turn around like, Alexin? He had just gotten out of jail. He had another open court case. He was biking back from that. He became our first enrolled student. 2 weeks later, he was stabbed 7 times but survived. We set up a barbell in his basement. As he recovered, we advocated in court to get his curfew pushed back till later in the evening so he could join our first practice facility that we had up and running in collaboration with a local gym in January 2010. And started off with 4 students, and by the end of March we had over 50 students in the program. And what really ended up happening was that our students were telling us what to do, and we were just listening. They were coming from backgrounds where they've been shot, they've been stabbed, they've been in and out of prison. Some hadn't spent more than a month out of prison. In the gym, all of a sudden, it became not just a safe place for them to go, but it became a place where they could meet new people and where they could gain this hope that didn't previously exist, and this kind of positive community that didn't exist outside the streets for them.
Sure. It's an interesting point you make, and as we try to relate this to strength and conditioning coaches that are listening, but you saying that they're telling you what to do. That's an important lesson that often gets missed, doesn't it? Sometimes you want to go out there guns blazing, but it kind of takes me into my next question on how you're relating as this 5'7", 140-pound white guy, soccer player from, Providence. How do you relate to those guys? And it sounds like that's probably one of the major strategies you had, or just sit back and listen to what they need.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got this up and running, I was 26. I was from Amherst, Mass. And everyone kind of said the same thing, can he really work with this population? Is he really going to be able to do that? It wasn't just me. It was a team of volunteers and really our students as well. And what it allowed me to do was not come in it with this set of assumptions that I know what's best, but instead really listen to the young people we were working with and try to provide as many positive solutions as possible. I mean, even today, 6 of the guys I pick up, there's bullet holes in the front of their house. Wow. They come outside and they look left and right, not to see if there's oncoming traffic, but to see if there's a bullet flying towards their head.
Wow.
That's something that I've been fortunate, and most of us have been fortunate enough to never have to experience. But it's also incredibly humbling to this idea that we know what's best, especially when it comes to our students. I guarantee we don't. And the decisions that they're making that lead to them being dead or in jail, sadly, often are the best short-term solutions they have for the challenges they're facing today. But what happens is that if we can listen to them, and instead of trying to force them to change, just put positive solutions on the table and keep developing that relationship. They might not take that positive solution today, but as long as it stays there, when the time is right, they take to it. We see it time in, time out. Students go back to jail, they come back out, they go back to jail again, they come back out. By staying with them throughout all that and letting them see that this is not something you can lose. We treat ourselves as a family, and we mean it. Right. And we see this change in some of the same students that have been written off by society as sociopaths and young people who are guaranteed to kill someone. And now all of a sudden they're helping to run our gym. They're training millionaires. We've got several 7-figure clients who come in here, and that same person that was called a sociopath is now training someone who's the managing director of one of the major law firms in Boston, another guy who's a VP of Merrill Lynch. And these people coming from these wealthier backgrounds do not see our students the way that the stereotypes and those false labels that have been placed upon them by society would make you think that they would be in terms of the person they are.
Absolutely. How do you mentioned something in there that it's a common, problem or challenge as a strength coach is, you pour so much of yourself into these guys, and gals, and as a coach, and it's almost like it is that you're a part of your family, and when they let you down, when they make a mistake, when they make it, when they do something that's out of character or out of, it's not the person how do you manage that frustration?
I think for us, part of it is just understanding that the failures and the mistakes that's just part of the game. That's part of what's going to happen, and there's a much stronger positive and a much better outcome that happens when instead of getting frustrated with whatever that mistake might have been, you stick with them. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't be frustrated or you shouldn't give advice in terms of what to do next time. And we've got students all the time that, what they're doing is while we understand there's a logic behind it, so it's not like they're true sociopaths. It's not what's going to help them out in the long term.
Right.
But at the same time, they have to be the ones that are going to make that decision. We can't do it for them. So all we can do is be patient and keep making that positive overwhelm the negative. Right. And when you do it, and when you see the transition over time, you can look back at those same mistakes and those same frustrations, and they make you feel that much better about it, because those same mistakes and frustrations were also the best opportunities. Okay. So with our students, and again, it's slightly different than strength and conditioning, but some of the best moments to reach them is when they get shot. It's when they go back to jail. It's when their friend gets killed. Those are the opportunities that have them really questioning those mistakes that they might have made. That's when they start questioning, what led me to be here. And that's our opportunity to, rather than kind of give up on the person or write them off because we're frustrated, it's our opportunity to get in there and get in there deeper and get to that next level of progress.
And then what they say, it's success is a string of several failures put together,
Yeah, we get to experience plenty of failures. So.
I hear you, man.
But the successes at the end make it worth it.
Well, I would imagine, just like you, team dynamics is a huge factor, and so now you get this, if you're a strength coach, you got this melting pot of upper class, lower class, different ethnicities, the whole deal. Your situation now, guys are coming in from maybe even rival gangs, in some cases. How are you managing the team dynamic within the weight room and keeping everybody civil when civility is not something that's, common, and keeping everybody's temper and juice down when that's everything that screams about a weight room is energy and excitement and pushing and all those types of things? Give me some of your, some of the things that you do.
Well, for our rival games, we've got several different sites. Only one of the sites is our full-time site, but we've got collaborating sites where we have a strict screening process that does two things for us. One, it builds a relationship right off the bat before the student has even come into the weight room, so it's kind of a chance for them to get to know us and for us to kind of prove ourselves to them. So it's as simple as with our guys, if we say we're going to call or we say we're going to be somewhere, even if they're not, just when they see that we actually follow through, that's the first step in that relationship. The second part is, with our guys, we do need to know who they can and can't be around, where they can and can't be. And for the most part, because we work with the guys who are known as the high-impact players, we already know where they can and can't be, who they can and can't be around. So part of that trust is also keeping them safe. So it's not putting them in a situation where something could go wrong, or doing everything we can anyway to mitigate that from happening. And then once they're in the gym, it's a few things. One is, you come into that gym and all of our staff is going to greet with a smile, shake your hand. It's a positive atmosphere. And something we learned early on that kind of really took away from the opportunity to have the culture in the weight room get away from us in terms of a more aggressive culture was it was really based on want and based on the community of the weight room. So rather than having it incredibly structured around the workout, where guys who want that type of workout can definitely go through it, if you just want to come in there for the day and hang out, if you want to do 45 minutes of arm curls because that's what's going to have you walk back in here the next day, or you want to do Olympic lifts or a powerlifting routine or whatever it might be. For us, it's that structure around the community, so that people want to be here. And it ends up becoming this kind of powerful dynamic where our students really look after it for us. At the same time, with where our students are coming from, for some of them, it's the one time that day where they're not looking over their shoulder to see who's coming to get them.
Right.
So it's kind of this automatically a more relaxing atmosphere for us. So even if they're trying to set a new PR in a clean and jerk or whatever it might be, it's certainly more relaxing than looking over your shoulder to see what's coming. Our first summer, I took a group of guys from the gang that was responsible for the most homicides over the last decade up to Good Harbor Beach in Gloucester. First thing, one of the guys who was a leader says to me, he puts his arm on my shoulder and says, "Man, it feels good not to have to look over my shoulder." I'm like, man, that's not what I think when I come to this beach. And it's just this kind of another one of those moments that shows how different life is for most of us than the sad reality is for a lot of the young people we work with. The second question I got was, are we at the Pacific Ocean? I said, we didn't drive that far. It was only a 45-minute ride out of Boston. we'll get there one of these days.
Wow. So, so the guys are in the gym, and you kind of keep it to some degree open to some degree. But now there are some guys that you've had to come through that maybe for several years that have bought in hook, line, and sinker. What's a typical training session look like, and then how do you mix in positive, self-confidence boosters and trying to affect, I always tell our athletes that, they're in our weight room for 2 hours out of the day. They have 22 hours to mess up everything we just did. Well, for you, those other 22 hours make it almost it's critical. If they don't do the right things in those 22 hours, you may not see them the next day. And so how do you make that impact in that maybe 2 hour window? But then also, how's that training session look?
Yeah. So part of it is kind of like what you said. It's just being patient at the start and knowing you might not do that 2 hour workout the first time, but If you're patient, you build that relationship, we'll get them there. So most of the time what will happen is we start with the dynamic warm-up. Sarah Cahill does a lot of the training for us. She's the head strength coach of USA Women's Hockey and works with Mike Boyle as well. So she'll lead them through a dynamic workout. And then we'll get into a couple of power exercises, and then depending on the student, a couple of strength supersets or conditioning workout, depending on what they're looking for. For the group of young people that are going to be focusing more on Olympic lifts, a similar warm-up, but we'll do a lot of just empty barbell technique work to get them warmed up before we actually get into the Olympic lifts. Mm-hmm. Newer students, they'll work on the snatch and the clean and jerk, or at least variations of them, so they won't necessarily do the full lifts each day, but they'll work on variations, and initially both lifts will be incorporated into the workout. More advanced students, they're going to focus on snatches or the clean and jerk based on which day and where they're at in terms of how skilled they are in the lifts. So someone like Joe, who's featured on ESPN, he'll come in and one day it's focusing on snatches. Next day it might be focusing on clean and jerk. And they'll do a little lighter work. And we'll also break out into blocks depending on what his goals are and where he's at, where sometimes he won't do as many Olympic lifts, just some technique work, but really focus on squats for about a month and just overall strength.
Right.
So again, it varies a lot based on the skill level and ability of the student. And we've got other guys who have been shot and paralyzed from the neck down, shot paralyzed from the waist down, and for the guys who are recovering from those types of injuries, the workout is much more based on just restoring whatever sort of function we can and correcting the imbalances that are caused by the recovery process of that.
Do some of these athletes go on? I mean, do you introduce a competitive type of element? I mean, are they going to powerlifting competitions, Olympic lifting competitions, or are they even interested in that?
A few are. One of our earliest students, he competed in junior nationals for Olympic lifting. Joe is another person who wants to start competing, but we'll just start talking trash in the gym, like in a very fun way. And me and Joe will go at it. Joe's unfortunately much stronger than I am now, but I'll still beat him at Mortal Kombat, which is why we got the PlayStation at least. And then initially off the bat, one of the things I used to do with guys, especially being a little bit smaller, and with the guys who are bigger, is when you first meet them, I'd talk about the gym a little bit, and I bet them $20 that they can't do a more weight than me in a power clean. And they'd kind of smile at me and be like, "All right, you give it a try." Next thing you know, that they're kind of tapping out at 135, 150 pounds, and I'm putting 200 pounds up my shoulders, and like, all right, I'm gonna give this thing a try.
Sure.
So there's just kind of different ways you can keep everything, for us anyway, keep it that really fun culture and a fun atmosphere in the gym, and incorporating competition less formally. But for the students who do want to compete, certainly we'll help them get there.
Sure. So what outside of obviously a safe place, then how do you maintain their motivation within? Is it are they more do they get geeked up about physiological changes? Are they getting geeked up about just the competing within the gym? Where does most of their motivation come from once they're actually training?
And some of them certainly become more narcissistic, which never hurts compared to what we're battling against outside the gym. So if you're too in love with your body, chances are you don't want to do too many bad things to it.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think that the main motivation is for a lot of these guys, for the first time ever, and this is what we hear all the time, is that they have hope. They've got a positive community to belong to. And based on people that come into the gym, and we do group training sessions where we go to different corporations like Microsoft, Root Cause, Babson College starting in January, they get to see a side of the world they've never seen before. And to them, even more than weight training, that's the real hook. It's part of our metrics are based on that relationship and that network. So weight training is just what the gym allows us to do is, in this very non-invasive way, become part of our students' lives. So rather than us trying to be this big brother or mentor and saying, "Hey, let's do this or that," right. And that implication behind being a mentor that you know what's best when we already know we don't. Right. The gym allows us to send a text message to say, "Hey, I'm working out at 3. You want to come?" So it's this very non-invasive way to get involved with them. And then again, it starts with weight training, but all of a sudden, one of the metrics we keep track of is proactive communication. So it's, "Hey, can I get a ride to the gym?" Or a question about nutrition, or help getting a GED, help getting a job, to more serious things. Like a few weeks ago, 2 of our guys were shot at 1:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning, and our phones were ringing, letting us know what just happened, which sends us the signal that this is not just about weight training anymore, this is about life. And that really becomes that main motivation is, let's go get that workout, but this is something that's going to help me out, not just in the gym, but outside the gym as well.
Right. Are there any kind of formalized programs within the gym then on, how to make a positive impact outside of the gym?
So the main one that we own is our student apprenticeship program. And in that, we get our most committed students certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And now all of a sudden they get to start training clients. Even while they're studying, they're training clients at $20 or more an hour. Those clients come in and pay the student directly, so we don't even touch that money. And it builds this bond between the student and those people coming from completely different worlds. And ultimately what it allows our students to do is, even the guys who aren't necessarily interested in personal training, now because we've got the head owner or the head chef and co-owner of Area 4 restaurant, now one of our students gets to do a day job shadowing over in the kitchen because he's interested in culinary arts. We had another student get a job interview with W.B. Mason as the general manager came in for a workout. So that component of the program, while it's still focused on weight training, what we try to do is really stay focused on our direct work and what we're good at, but overlap it with this chance for a much more wide-scale and sustainable change, where now all of a sudden our students are connected to all these opportunities that exist outside the gym based on the people who are coming inside the gym.
Absolutely. Where does now talk a little bit about your staff. Let's talk about that first. How many staff members do you have, and how do you monitor the room?
We've got 4 full-time staff, 5 part-time staff. And it's a mix. I mean, I went to Babson College, got my MBA there. Josh, our program director, who's also NESM certified, he went to Berkeley College of Music. And we've got Sarah Cahill, who's the head strength coach at USA Weightlifting and works with Mike Boyle. And then we've got Reggie Talbert, who's our general manager. He's a guy that last year got off probation for the first time in 26 years of his life. He'd come to us after doing almost 15 years in the feds. He's been shot, paralyzed from the neck down, and one of the kindest people I've ever met. He volunteered with us for 2 years. There was no doubt about the positive impact he was having on our students, and we were finally able to get him on payroll. So it's a whole mix of people that goes into, at the same time, creating this culture that we keep talking about, this community that's not just people from one part of the city or just people from another side of the city that have wealth and opportunity. It's all these groups coming together to create this community. So in general, we always try to have at least 2 staff monitoring the floor. There'll be a group of students that might want to jump in and work out with Shamsul or Sarah or Reggie. So they'll lead them, and then there's 1 or 2 people that are kind of floating around helping some of the guys who they might have it all under control on their own, or they might have a couple of questions and they can come up to any of us and ask at any time.
Right. And you mentioned that, NASM, you've mentioned, NSCA. Where's your staff's strength and conditioning knowledge coming from? Are you guys doing any kind of staff development or, reaching out to anybody, having people come through, anything like that?
We're incredibly fortunate to have people from Mike Boyle's program come in. They teach seminars on program design for our students, nutrition. So in addition to NESM, we certainly want to get all the best strength and conditioning coaches in the area to come into our gym and teach seminars for our students because, and same for me, I learn much better hands-on, and certainly our students do as well. So rather than just reading a book, which it's good, but there's nothing that you can learn in that book that's going to equal what you can learn shadowing someone like yourself or someone like Mike Boyle or Anthony Renna or Sarah Cahill or some of our other coaches. So we really try to keep it as practical as possible and provide those opportunities to have people come in and not just get to know our students, but have our students really be able to learn from their skills and knowledge as well.
Absolutely. Well, this goes out to a lot of people. We'll make sure we link up all of John's information at the end. But if you're a strength coach up in the Boston area, get out and volunteer. Go by and just check it out. I can't recommend that enough. I think that'd be fantastic. And I'm going to try to figure out a way to do it myself.
Anytime. I'd love to have
you. One of the things that, about strength and conditioning coaches, and I've often said this, is, most strength coaches, 99% of them, they're doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it to make an impact on young people's lives. They're doing it because they have a heart of gold, and just like you, and that you took action. I think there's a lot of people out there that have a story, a platform, or something that they have that they want to make an impact and a difference, just like yourself. Talk a little bit about, you had this idea, you wanted to start this foundation. If somebody's got a foundation within them or a ministry within them, what are the steps? What should they be doing?
Well, I think what really helped us out is we did first and talked second. So we started when we launched January 2010. It was a completely bootstrap model. No one was getting paid. We weren't paying for space. We had a gym that was willing to give us 2 hours in the afternoon on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And we grabbed four students that we were looking to work with. And by the end of March, we had over 50. By the end of the first year, we were kicked out of that gym. Not because anything went wrong, but because we took over the gym.
Right.
So it's kind of we left on good terms. At the same time, what it allowed us to do is build these relationships with foundations and individuals that had the capacity to either give advice or give financially, and not talk about what we wanted to do, but really show them what we were doing. And I think that especially for a nonprofit, starting from scratch, is that first round of funding is going to be tough, and you're going to have to prove that you're going to make this thing work through thick and thin.
Sure.
And there's no better way of doing that than just do it. And plus, I mean, when we initially started, we thought we were going to be providing elite weight training services for young people who couldn't otherwise afford it. And that was really the focus. And it was a dual focus of that, but we were going to work with this population that was active in the streets. And then what we quickly realized is that our guys are getting shot. They're going in and out of jail. The most structured and elite weight training program might actually not work with them. It might even exclude them because they can't keep up with it because their daily lives are so complex outside the gym.
Sure.
So it allowed us to, not necessarily lose that component, but that's not the primary component anymore. So there's so much you learn by just doing and finding ways. And even at Babson, the organizations that I saw get off the ground were the ones that did a good enough job, that didn't ignore the details and they didn't ignore the risks, but they didn't get hung up in the details and they didn't get hung up in the risks. They found a way to get it going and learn from that. So I think that, the biggest piece of advice I can give is do it. Even if it's just starting off with one person or if it's a foundation, one grant to help out one student, starting small, you can learn a lot and save yourself the mistakes you might make if you get too big too fast.
No doubt. Well, that's as strength coaches, we have a great platform. We have great resources and opportunity to do things like this. Well, it could be if you're at high school, it could be a lift-a-thon where you donate it to a family or to help with adoption or an inner city type of program or something. Or in colleges, maybe you work through your SID department to set something up. But we have an obligation, and I think to give back and to help those in need. And I think what you're doing is phenomenal, and truly appreciate the efforts and want to try to encourage all of the strength coaches that listen to this to help in any way possible, or to find their own cause and help in any way possible. Along those lines, what are some of the needs that what are some of the struggles right now with InnerCity Weightlifting?
Our biggest struggles right now all have to do with capacity and demand. So for instance, we've got several groups of young people that want to get involved with us, but we don't have a safe location. We don't have the staff to work with them. So one group, for instance, the younger guys from H Block, know a bunch of them. They're interested, but they can't come to any of our current locations because of the groups we're already working with or the areas that they're in. So even just to work with them, we need another site. And then we've got all the Heath Street guys. They want to join, but they don't get along with H Block, and for the same reasons, they can't come to any of our locations. So even working with them is now adds on a second location. So one of the major struggles we have is just capacity in terms of we know it works. We know that these young people are not only willing to come to the program, but they want to be here. And we can make that difference. And the sad reality is last year, 6 of our students were killed. This year, 3 of our students, which so far a better year, and many more have been shot. And most of the guys that get killed are the guys who are kind of on that waiting list, guys who we know who want to work with us, but we just don't have the capacity to do that in a safe way yet. So it's kind of knowing what that expected outcome is going to be if no one steps in. Definitely puts the pressure on us to really figure it out and keep trying to grow to scale in a way that increases impact. So if it's we work with this group and we spread ourselves too thin and now we're not really working with anyone, or we stay a little bit smaller, then we'll go where the impact is. But it's tough to turn down those opportunities to help someone out when you know what the expected outcome is if you don't.
Right. What the alternative. Absolutely. Well, if somebody wanted to reach out to you or donate, or maybe we have vendors that listen to the show, where should they turn to?
All my contact info is on our website, InnerCityWeightlifting.org. They can reach out to myself, our operations coordinator, Blake Bolden, or our program director, Josh. All of us will get right back, and any support, even if it's just spreading the word, and even if it's just spreading the word about who our students really are, those false labels that society has put on them, it really does feed into this segregation and isolation that our students face day in, day out, and leads to this chronic cycle of violence. And why a lot of these gangs form, it's because they are able to create this love for each other that no one else is willing to show them. So even something as simple as just spreading the word can make a big difference.
That's great. We always kind of end the show with some resources here. So give me a quote that you live by, or maybe that you got plastered up in the room there.
So I actually, my favorite quotes come from our students. Okay. Some appropriate, some less appropriate. I think one of the things that really stood out to me that one of our students said, and that really helped dictate who we are and where we're going, is that we can't force someone to change, but together we can create an environment that empowers someone to want to change.
Yeah, that's great.
I think that's something that it one takes the pressure off you having to do the work, because end of the day it's up to that individual, right or wrong. But what we can do is come together as a community and really make it happen. Put those positive solutions on the table and let that overwhelm the negative. Sure. And in time, the positive will definitely win. So that's one of my favorites, and ever since I learned the term chips, in terms of that's corny, I always like to say things about my brother and call him chips. So I learned from our students. So I think that's my favorite quote, though. The most used one would be chips. But.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about for your staff, yourself? Give me a website that you reach when you're surfing. Where do you go?
We actually love strengthcoach.com and Mike Boyle's pages. Yep. Part of it is he's done a ton to help us out. Eric Cressy too has been a great resource. And back when I was doing full-time personal training, I was a little bit more on the nerdy side, but I loved super training. I loved biomechanics in sport and endocrine system in sport, which are not the most exciting reads, but certainly some good information in there.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Mike, and I know Anthony, I think, did a podcast with members of your staff as well, and did a phenomenal job of helping raise some support with a T-shirt or something, correct?
Yep.
So I would encourage everybody to go and watch or listen to his show as well. But give me is there an app or anything that you use technology-wise to try to communicate with your athletes, or that from even just taking video or something?
Pretty much just whatever the iPhone does.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I'm not the IT guy, so there's some like Rome, who's one of our coaches. He's got apps for everything. I can find out from him and let you know. But
that's fine.
For me, the app is a text message.
Well, and it's something that's overlooked sometimes. But I'd often say that when you leave the gym and those little texts, you're driving down the road and you got an overweight athlete and you see him, and you drive by a Taco Bell and you text him and say, "I better not have saw you in there." Even though that's harsh sometimes, it's also love, and it's also that you're thinking about them, and they know that you're thinking about them, and that's the bigger message in that. But well, John, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you sharing your story and what you're doing, and you're one of the great ones, man. And any way that anybody can help, I would highly encourage it, because what you got going on is very special. So thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without support from people like yourself, so thank you.
All right, brother. Have a good week.
Thanks. You too.
All right, guys. A couple quick things before we let you go. Make sure you go over to ronmckeefery.com /37 to get to this episode's show notes, where all the links that we mentioned in the episode are there, including the video, the link to the ESPN story. I'll make sure to put anything, the website and all that type of stuff on there as well. But if you could, while you're there, go to the comment section. Let John know how much you appreciate A, what he's doing, B, for coming on the show and sharing with us. It's a phenomenal thing that he's done, and truly appreciate him coming on. Also, while you're there, join the mailing list. I send emails once a week, just letting you know what the latest episode is, as well as the latest Tribe TV. You get a free ebook for doing so, with 365 quotes that you can use with your athletes. And, it's just a way for me to continue to communicate with you each week. Like I said in the beginning, we're on iTunes. You can subscribe there. YouTube, you can subscribe there. I'm trying to find all the ways possible to make it easy for you to be able to get access to this information just so that we can continue to support one another and make it, just a fantastic community and resource for you through the week. This being the last episode, I can't say enough. I hope that you you're safe over the New Year holiday, but also that you just are ready to attack 2014, because I know I am. We have lots of great things coming with RonMcKeefery.com and Iron Game Chalk Talk, and I can't wait to share those things with you in the new year. So be safe, have a great holiday, and we'll talk to you next year.